Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about Bob. Bob's a huge jerk. I'll never understand what people get out of crapping on others and, in the end, making their own jobs harder. It's god-awful stupid. Good on you for being an excellent smart butt, OP. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Just do what I say, OP. Right after law school, I got a job in a small business's legal department. Bob, the overworked legal eagle of the department, is resented being shackled with a clueless associate and thus being forced into the role of teacher since I arrived a year and a half ago. Bob enjoys explaining theories and bigger concepts, but is easily frustrated when forced to explain his thought process or any substantive aspects of what he wants me to do. I don't report directly to him, but am expected to help both him, my supervisor, and our other 4 attorneys if they need things done. For a long time, I tried to be helpful and to anticipate Bob's needs. I'm ignorant, young, not stupid. But all that changed on the day he snapped that the amount of time you've taken away from my professional life with your inane questions is so soul-crushingly large that it pains me to even think of quantifying it. Stop with the questions and just do what I say when I say it. It's been a few weeks since my malicious compliance spree began, and while I don't expect Bob to change his ways, it does give me some satisfaction to see him floundering more than usual. None of these stories are dramatic tales of sticking it to the man, but Bob provides me with daily opportunities for MC. Some examples include the following. Human Resources emails me an employee's full personnel file, which I've requested on behalf of Bob. It's a massive 873 pages due to the employee's long career and the fact that someone in HR printed and placed a ton of unnecessary garbage in there, like copies of his electronic timesheets. Me. Bob, the personnel file's very large. Would you like me to Bob, just print the whole thing and put it on my desk. I want it printed. I cradled the full file in my arms like a newborn on the long walk to Bob's office. Bob was on a call with his door open when I walked in. Eyes widening in shock, he immediately started rummaging around in his desk drawer. I'd already turned away and saw him grab some flag tags out of the corner of my eye, but he couldn't yell at me and continue with his phone call at the same time. A few days later, I saw the disheveled, flag-tagged document shoved into a forlorn corner of his bookshelf. A no print jobs exceeding 200 pages notice was also put above the copier by the office manager, which I now get around by combining large PDFs and splitting them into 200-page documents before printing them individually. UPS arrives at our building every day to collect our packages and letters. We don't have agreements with any other shipping company and would have to drive there in person to ship, which I have repeatedly reminded Bob of when he writes message sent via FedEx/courier/DHL/certified mail on hard copy letters. Bob forgets this after drafting 90% of his letters. Usually he grouches and prints out a correct copy, signs it, and shoves it at me. But one day he cut me off as I was pointing out the FedEx in his letter, and he said, "I don't care. I don't have time to do another version. Just FedEx it today." So that's what I did. After explaining the situation to my supervisor, whose first comment was classic Bob, I packed up my stuff, sat in rush hour traffic for 30 minutes, and stood in line at FedEx, because my supervisor had given me the rest of the day off. It was already 3 p.m. at the time of the request. I drove another half hour to my house instead of going back to the office. I'd missed several emails from Bob and a few "where are you" and "are you done" emails between the substantive work requests. Further up the email trail, Bob admitted defeat and copied our paralegal to do part of the work, promising another attorney to do the rest himself to meet a deadline of that evening, which he'd never told me about. He didn't reply when I emailed him the signed/scanned copy of his letter and the receipt with the subject line "sent via FedEx." Like most businesses, we have occasionally been subpoenaed by small, local courts for employment records. Usually our paralegal handles them, but when Bob overheard the paralegal talking to me about an order that was sent under seal by a big federal agency, BFA, for any and all records related to an employee, he said he would handle it personally. I protested. He told me that he had it and that I wasn't going to do anything with it at all. Okay, Bob. The day before the records were due, Bob comes to me and tells me to put the records on a disk and overnight it, along with his signed affidavit showing that we gave all records to BFA. When I checked the electronic file, there was one lone PDF, which is the employee's personnel file. Bob's crabby when I interrupt his online chess game, but I decide to break my MC rule so he doesn't commit perjury. Me, where are the records? Bob, his personnel file's right there. Me, there are other records, Bob. Bob, like what? Me, well, timekeeping records from the timekeeping software, travel records from accounting, benefits files from HR, recruiting files from our recruiting guy. Bob, just pull the records and email the investigator. Me, I don't have his email. There's only a phone number on the order, and I haven't been in touch with him since you said you had it. At this point, Bob snaps at me to just hurry up and pull the records. His door slams, and he walks out a few minutes later with a sour look on his face and a one-day extension from the investigator. Just think, Bob the Legal Eagle must have been someone's clueless associate once upon a time. How'd he ever move on up? And our second story. Sandwich theft Karen. One day I was off work. I was craving a sandwich at lunchtime on a hot day. I traveled to the nearest Subway and got in line. As it was noontime, there were quite a few people in line, and as many places, they seemed understaffed. I get this, everyone is nothing the store can do but what they can. The young teenage girl was the only one to make sandwiches while a manager was ringing up the orders when not helping with condiments. So while waiting in line at Subway with like 6 others, I was behind a group of 3 old ladies, the Karens of this story. While not the spitting image of most Karens, you could tell from how they talked with each other that they were the kind of women with resting bee faces. So it came time to have their sandwiches made, and of course every one of them wanted a very custom sandwich. This meat, that cheese is a little too much, I want it toasted off. That's too much, I want to switch the bread, on and on. It was annoying as the one girl tried to keep up, but was getting frustrated and stressed. Then the manager stepped over trying to help, but with these women, they were not happy with anything. After 15 minutes of making each of these ladies sandwiches, it finally came time to pay. Down to the register they went as my meatball sub was quickly made and passed down. I'm plain bread, meat, and sauce, a little ranch, so I waited behind them. The manager rang up the old bats, and when the total came out to around $30-ish, they went off again. I'm not saying that they started to squeal. We waited forever to be served, and then you two couldn't even make a sandwich? We want it free, they whined. I was fed up with it, and after it continued for a few minutes, I stepped up and said I'd take the sandwiches and add them to mine. The old crows grinned and thought they had one. I paid for the 4 sandwiches now and added my drink and chips. After my card was approved and I was handed my receipt, I picked up my newly 4-bought sandwiches and got my drink. As I started paying, the old ladies went to sit at a table. After getting my drink, I headed to the door to leave with my food in hand. Excuse me, you have our food still. Are you not going to bring it to us? Receipt in hand, holding it up. Nope, I paid my money for my food and will take them back to work. As I headed to the door, I got them to get up and chase me out the door, which I didn't mind. The staff had enough of them, and I can take some abuse from crazies. You need to give us our food or we'll call the cops and have you arrested. I knew this was dumb, but as I said, nothing better on a day off. Please be my guest. I assure you they won't be doing anything about this one. One of them started to pull out a phone and call while the others began telling me how I must love stealing from old ladies and how they knew this person or that person and I'd be in jail for a long time. Well, they called. I stood there not saying a word, which is hard to do being belittled, but I had the store crowd watching by this point. Soon enough, a few units pulled in, and as they got out, a look of confusion crossed their face. Officer, are you the guy they called about? Because you match the description. Me. Yeah, I am. What did they call in on me? Officer, you stole their sandwiches and demanded money from them? Me. Well, look into it. Ask the clerk and manager who paid for the sandwiches, and look at this receipt. One officer walked in, spoke with the store, and watched the video while the other listened to these women insinuate that I took the food from them. The shock was priceless once the other came out and confirmed I paid for them, and the store also wanted the 3 trespassed for a disturbance. I was released to leave, but decided to go back in and eat. The 3 were banned and left with an even more sour look, and the manager brought over a cookie. telling me it was on her. That's a sweet story. Or maybe we should say savory, because sandwiches are usually savory and loaded with yummy things. And our last story. The HOA is trying to force us to join. We closed on a vacant lot in Idaho, and months later, the community HOA protested our water rights application and contacted us to let us know we're under their jurisdiction. They sent us updated CCRs and bylaws that mention our lot and subdivision. The realtors had said there may be an HOA and emailed us some 30-year-old scanned CCRs, but said that the HOA appeared to have been dissolved and the sellers had never paid an HOA fee, so it didn't seem like it would impact us. I'd looked up the officers listed on the documents we received, and they all would have been in the 87-year-old age range, so probably no longer alive. There was old, rusty, broken-down heavy equipment on the lot when we bought it, so it didn't appear that CC&Rs were being enforced. The old documents did not mention our lot or subdivision. They did, however, mention a lot that was part of another subdivision that apparently was divided into our subdivision. We looked up the HOA in state records and found that their status had changed from dissolved/inactive to active/in good standing like a week after we closed. We've not signed anything about an HOA, but the updated CCRs that we're just now seeing do mention our lot. Update. We got mad and got a lawyer. We tried to find out if these people have legally A, amended the CCRs, B, are the legally elected members of the HOA board based on the CCR and state laws. Turns out they can't prove that they can legally enforce the CCRs as a legally created HOA. Not only did we ignore them, but we had a lawyer write a cease and desist letter. Always ensure that any legal actions or communications are handled by professionals to protect your rights and interests. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.